5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
How's it going? What do you like my new attire? Around now. That. How's it going? You guys having a good Wednesday? That'd be just because I was excited to get it. I got it yesterday, but it was late, so yeah. Twitter post incoming, of course. Hope you're all doing well. Can you guys believe that it's like 2 weeks from freaking Thanksgiving? Do you know how weird that is? Which also means it's basically it's like 2.5 weeks. Yeah, to December. You know, the 12th month, the last month of the year. What the hell? Where did the year go? Where did all this crap come from? Hmm? I mean, it's not like anything happened at all this year. Not personally or anything, or for anyone else 2 weeks ago. A week ago? I can't do math. A week ago. It feels like 2 weeks ago. Was it seriously only a week and a day ago? What the hell? I am confused. Oh, wow. And of course, I'm hearing myself through my headphone. Mute the tab, Tiffany. There you go. Oh my lord. Yes, Colson? Would you like outside? This is a struggle session, apparently. I'll be right back. I may have to let them in later. Both decided they wanted to go outside. Okay. I thought I was muted. I was going to have a Jeremy moment there. I'm going to say hi to everybody. What's up, goddess? Always first one here, it would seem. Unless Larry tries to beat you. Generally, it's always you. How's it going, Clinton? Sim goddess legioness. Hope you're having a good day if you're here and can hear me. I'll say it again later if you come in later. What's up, Dom? Making a bunch of changes in fantasy football, I see. Hey, what's up, Kel? How's it going? Hope you guys are doing well. My audio's out of sync. Okay, glad it's working. Cool. Sorry. I guess I could talk while I'm reading, but clearly off my game tonight. My bad. Cool. I'm going to blame StreamYards. It's also what I'm going to blame for my mic issues if I have them. Just going to say it's StreamYards. You missed my moment opening? It makes me sad, so I need to turn it back around and demonstrate it again. Do my best impression of a woman doing duck lips or whatever the fuck that shit's called. I feel like these things are gigantic. Like, makes my head feel huge. I mean, you can see my giant forehead. But... And here, my refrigerator. I wonder if maybe that's what affects my mic. Hopefully it doesn't give you guys issues tonight like it did last week. Thank you, Dom, for sending me a clip of that. I don't know what its deal is, but it's real friggin' annoying. Does everybody remember what happened in the last chapter? Because I really, really don't. It was just more of him, like the emperor paying his people back and stuff, right? It was just one chapter that seemed like it went on for ages. Maybe it took me longer to read because I was so tired. I'm going to turn my phone off of vibrate and put it on silent because that's getting annoying. I am a hot mess today. I apologize. Yep, my phone. The mug today now has lipstick print on it, but it's my Montana mug. It is super old. Has like fun facts. I got it for a roommate a while ago, and she forgot it here, so it just became my mug. So, say la vie. You didn't do your homework. How dare you, Dom? I have expectations, and they're high. They're really not. I don't even know what chapter I'm on. 13? I screwed myself last week. And no, Dom, I saw your comment. I'm not going to do 3 chapters. They're long enough already. I'm not going to... I got to eat food at some point. And fun story. So you guys... I think you guys know. I get my meat from farms, like local farms, delivered to the house once a month. And there was, if you didn't know, a gigantic snowstorm last week. I complained about it enough. Where it snowed from basically election night through Saturday morning. It was super fun. So it delayed everything, and the meat delivery had already shipped on Tuesday, and it always comes in. It takes 2 days, and they package it with like insulation and dry ice and whatnot to keep it cool. I get an email on Friday saying that it's delayed because of the storm, and if it's like no longer frozen, or if it's partially frozen still or refrigerator cold, it should be fine per USDA guidelines. Well, come Monday, still hadn't gotten there here. And so I sent an email out, mainly because the tracking number hadn't updated with anything. It just kept saying, oh, it's going to be delivered by Friday. Saturday it didn't change. Sunday it didn't change. So I was just like, I'm not seeing a box. They've delivered it outside of our garage door before, which seriously, who checks before they drive out of their garage? Are you kidding me? It's so irritating when the like UPS drivers are so lazy that they can't go to the side of the house where the front door is. Like, I don't know why people can't think logically, but whatever. So I was checking outside my garage and outside my front door. Nada. So I emailed them and they're like, well, the storm delayed it. It's too many days like after the fact, so we're just going to send you a free shipment next week because there's supposed to be another snowstorm this week from wherever it's being shipped from. Of course, I get it yesterday, like the day after they said that they'd take care of it. And it's still refrigerator cold. So I call my dad and I'm like, hey, this is how they all feel. There's like some hemoglobin leaking out of it. Are we still good? Because I don't waste food. Shut the fuck up. I knew you were going to say that. Stop listening to me. Creeper. It's my brother. You guys know that. What a jerk. Anyway, I try not to waste food. And especially when it's meat and it's like $160 worth or more. Like, no, I'm good. Let's not waste this. So we refroze some of it, and then I got to make, I don't know why I started telling you this. Probably because I said that I need to eat at some point today. But that's that story. It was interesting. So I emailed the people and say, it came in yesterday. It was still refrigerator cold. Some of it was still a little frozen, but I'm pretty sure to cover their asses so we don't sue later. They're like, yeah, you should throw that out because it's been too long, blah, 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 blah. You shouldn't trust it. I'm like, okay, thank you. I just wanted to let you know just in case. And they're like, yep, we're going to ship out your stuff and whatnot. Dom thinks he's cute right now. Because I know that was you, Dom, for $20. LeBron James. Thanks. Not only am I... God damn it, Dom. Okay, LeBron James, what do you have to say? Not only am I the greatest Lakers player ever, I'm also simply the greatest basketball player ever. Show some respect, young lady. Your guy Kobe... Your guy Kobe got nothing on me. I can even show you a thing or two about reading as long as the book isn't too long. You misspelled too. It's the wrong word. T-O-O. Sorry, LeBronda. Maybe you should start reading some more and actually get past page 1. Thanks, Dom. So that was a fun little story about my meat delivery. Yes, I did, Dom. Probably because I think it was like the weekend before the con that happened. Actually, no, I think it was that weekend. I'm pretty sure. It was like the next day when I was complaining to you about it, I think. I was so annoyed because basically what happened is I backed out and I thought so we have some stuff in the garage and there's like a rug thing. And so I heard a weird noise like something was dragging, but I didn't see anything. I got out. Well, no, that was the other day. But I didn't see anything, and it wasn't like a complete red flag. I just thought it was something I brushed as I was backing out. And get back from the con after like 2.5 hours or something like that. Maybe it wasn't the con. Whatever, doesn't matter. And I see this box next to the garage, just like sitting in front of it in like a weird position. Like even when it's happened before where there was a box that I saw, like it was a Chewy box or something. It's always been like right up against the garage, not just kind of in the parking area or the driving path. God, I was so annoyed because, and it was actually my dairy delivery is what it was. So we get dairy from Amos Miller in Pennsylvania. Oh, I pointed that way. Actually, that's north. Oh, I pointed that way because that's where Pennsylvania is. So yeah, it was my dairy delivery. So it had been sitting out in the sun. This is the middle of freaking summer because I didn't know that it was there. Oh, annoyed, man. Irritating as shit. Whatever. Yes, thinking is too difficult for some people. You are correct. I'm not going to be nice to my brother. Get over yourself. Hi, Jim Harrison. How's it going? Although I'm not a liberal. I'm an anti-liberal. Actually, technically, I'll take that as libertarian. I'm going to take that as libertarian because that's technically... So, like, when I came up with my name on here, I'm not even apolitical. I'm a libertarian, but I took, like, a test for, like... I can't remember what it's called. Whatever. I took a test to figure out where I was on that stupid little map. Or compass or whatever it was. And it basically said I'm like a right-leaning libertarian, which made sense. I will take it any way I want, and I'm going to give you a little diatribe about it too, apparently. But green's my favorite color, and I dye my hair crazy colors, so green-haired anti-liberal came to life because at the time I hadn't taken that test, and I wasn't really all that into politics. I was becoming more and more into politics because the world was changing so drastically, and I think it was just as you get older, you get more into that stuff because it affects your life more than like when you're a kid and you hate it and you don't want to look into things. You just read the titles of articles and avoid it as much as possible because it's annoying. Yeah, when you get older, you can't do that as much. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just anti-liberal. I don't like these freaks. I don't care if they're modern versus classical. It does not matter to me because honestly, I think classical just leads to modern liberalism. So I'm taking that as libertarian. So thank you. Well, enjoy GTA Online. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good night. That would make me gaff. I don't want to be gaff. No, we were in the car outside your house. Yeah, when I was telling you the story, I think. Or maybe I was just complaining to you about how people like to deliver that crap. But whatever. All right, well, let's get into this. One comment I do have, I find it hilarious that basically the moment I decided to stop doing recaps, because the book would constantly just kind of go do an overview then the beginning of the next chapter, is when the book stopped doing that. So I found that really freaking hilarious. Less than hilarious, since the sarcasm, but yeah. But I'm going to get started so I stop talking your ear off about nothing. Although I guess that's kind of what streams are for nowadays. I don't know. What chapter am I on? 13. There it is. You like the week's difference? Last week I was super tired. Now I'm just super loopy for whatever reason. Chapter 13. In the den of tigers, the gold star brings deliverance. At Double Fork Ridge, Bokeen detains the monk. The rich Tang ruler issued a decree deputing Xuanzang to seek the source of Chan. He bent his head to find the dragon den, with firm resolve to climb the vulture peak. Through how many states did he roam beyond his own? Through clouds and hills he passed 10,000 times. He now leaves the throne to go to the west. He'll keep law and faith to reach the great void. Oh, yeah. That's what it was. We've got our pilgrimage, our pilgrim we've found. We shall now tell you about Tripitaka, who, on the third day before the 15th of the 9th month, in the 13th year of the period Zhenguan, was sent off by the Tang Emperor and many officials from outside the gate of Chang'an. For a couple of days his horse trotted without ceasing, and soon they reached the temple of the Law Gate. The abbot of that temple led some 500 monks on both sides to receive him and took him inside. As they met, tea was served, after which a vegetarian meal was presented. Soon after the meal, dusk fell, and thus shadows moved to the star river's nearing pulse. The moon was bright, without a speck of dust. The wild geese called from the distant sky, and washing flails beat from nearby homes. As birds returned to perch on withered trees, the Chan monks conversed in their Sanskrit tones. On rush mats placed upon a single bunk, they sat until halfway through the night. Beneath the lamps, the various monks discussed Buddhist doctrines and the purpose of seeking scriptures in the Western heaven. Some pointed out that the waters were wide and the mountains very high. Others mentioned that the roads were crowded with tigers and leopards. Still others maintained that the precipitous peaks were difficult to scale, and another group insisted that the vicious monsters were hard to subdue. Tripitaka, however, kept his mouth shut tightly, but he pointed with his finger to his own heart and nodded his head several times. Not perceiving what he meant, the various monks folded their hands and asked, why did the master of the law point to his heart and nod his head? When the mind is active, Tripitaka replied, all kinds of Mara come into existence. When the mind is extinguished, all kinds of Mara will be extinguished. This disciple has already made an important vow before Buddha in the Temple of Transformation, and he has no alternative but to fulfill it with his whole heart. If I go, I shall not turn aside until I have reached the Western heaven, seen Buddha, and acquired the scriptures so that the wheel of the law will be turned to us, and the kingdom of our Lord will be secured forever. When the various monks heard this statement, everyone congratulated and commended him, saying, a loyal and valiant master. They praised him unceasingly as they escorted him to bed. Soon, the bamboos struck down the setting moon, and the cocks crowed to gather the clouds of dawn. The various monks arose and prepared some tea and the morning meal. Xuanzang put on his cassock and went to worship Buddha in the main hall. Your disciple, Chen Xuanzang, he said, is on his way to seek scriptures in the Western heaven. But my fleshy eyes are dim and unperceptive and do not recognize the true form of the living Buddha. Now I wish to make a vow that throughout this journey I shall burn incense whenever I come upon a temple. I shall worship Buddha whenever I meet a Buddha, and I shall sweep a pagoda whenever I reach a pagoda. May our Buddha be merciful and soon reveal to me his diamond body 16 feet tall. May he grant me the true scriptures so that they may be preserved in the land of the East. He finished his prayer and went back to the hall for the vegetarian meal, after which his two attendants made ready the saddle and urged him to begin his journey. Going out of the temple's gate, Tripitaka took leave of the monks, who grieved to see him go. They accompanied him for 10 miles before turning back, tears in their eyes, as Tripitaka proceeded directly toward the west. It was the time of late autumn. You see trees growing bare in hamlets as rush petals break. From every maple column the red leaves fall. Trekkers through paths of mist and rain are few. The fair chrysanthemums, the sharp mountain rocks, cold streams, and cracked lilies all make one sad. Snow falls from a frosty sky on rushes and reeds. One duck at dusk descends in the distant void. Clouds over the wilds move through the gathering gloom. The swallows depart, the wild geese appear. Their cries, though loud, are halting and forlorn. After traveling for several days, master and disciples arrived at the city of Gongju. They were met at once by the various municipal officials of that city, where they spent the night. The next morning they set off again, taking food and drink along the way, resting by night and journeying by day. In 2 or 3 days they arrived at the district of Heizhou, which formed the border of the great Tang Empire. When the garrison commander of the border, as well as the local monks and priests, heard that the master of the law, a bond brother of the emperor, was on his way to the western heaven to see Buddha by royal commission, they received the travelers with due reverence. Some chief priests then invited them to spend the night at Fuyuan Temple, where every resident cleric came to pay respect to the pilgrims. Dinner was served, after which the 2 attendants were told to feed the horses well, for the master wanted to leave before dawn. At the first crowing of the cock, he called for his attendants and aroused the monks of that temple. They hastened to prepare tea and breakfast, after which the pilgrims departed from the border. Because he was somewhat impatient to get going, the master arose a trifle too early. The fact that this was late autumn, when cocks crow rather early, at about the time of the 4th watch. Facing the clear frost and the bright moon, the 3 of them, the horse made up the 4th member of the team, journeyed for some 20 or 30 miles when they came upon a mountain range, exceedingly difficult for them to find their way. As they had to poke around in the grass to look for a path, they began to worry that they might be heading in the wrong direction. In that very anxious moment, they suddenly tripped. All 3 of them, as well as the horse, tumbled into a deep pit. Tripitaka was terrified. His companions all shook with fear. They were still trembling when they heard voices shouting, "Seize them! Seize them!" A violent wind swept by, and a mob of 50 or 60 ogres appeared, who seized Tripitaka with his companions and hauled them out of the pit. Quivering and shivering, the master of the law stole a glance around and saw a ferocious monster king seated up on high. Truly, he had a figure most awesomely bold, a face most distinctly fierce. Light flashed from his lightning-like eyes. All quaked at his thunderous voice. His saw-like teeth jutted outward. Like fangs they emerged from his jaws. Brocade wrapped his body around, and coiling stripes covered his spine. They saw flesh through sparse, steely whiskers. Keen-edged were his claws like sharp swords. Even Huang Gong of East Sea would fear this white-browed king of Mount South. Tripitaka was so frightened that his spirit left him, while the bones of his followers grew weak and their tendons turned numb. The monster king shouted for them to be bound, and the various ogres tied up all 3 of them with ropes. They were being prepared to be eaten when a clamor was heard outside the camp. Someone came in to report, "The Bear Mountain Lord and the Steer Hermit have arrived." Hearing this, Tripitaka looked up. The first one to come in was a swarthy fellow. How did he look, you ask? He seemed valiant and courageous, with body both tough and brawny. His great strength could ford the waters. He prowled the woods, flaunting his power. Ever a good omen in dreams, he showed now his forceful features. He could break or climb the green trees, and predicted when winter was near. Truly he was most clever, hence Mountain Lord was his name. Following behind him was another husky fellow. How did he look, you ask? A cap of twin horns rugged, and a humpback most majestic. His green robe showed his calm nature. He walked with a slumberous gait. He came from a father named Bull. His mother's proper name was Cow. A great boon to people who plowed, he was thus called the Steer Hermit. The 2 of them swaggered in, and the Monster King hurried out to receive them. The Bear Mountain Lord said, "You are in top form, General Yin. Congratulations, congratulations." General Yin looks better than ever, said the Steer Hermit. It's marvelous. It's marvelous. And you 2 gentlemen, how have you been these days? Asked the Monster King. Just maintaining my idleness, said the Mountain Lord. Just keeping up with the times, said the hermit. After these exchanges, they sat down to chat some more. Meanwhile, one of Tripitaka's attendants was bound so tightly that he began to moan pitifully. How did these three get here? Asked the swarthy fellow. They practically presented themselves at the door, said the Monster King. Can they be used for the guests' dinner? Asked the hermit, laughing. By all means, said the Monster King. Let's not finish them all up, said the Mountain Lord. We'll dine on 2 of them and leave 1 over, the Monster King agreed. He called his subordinates at once to have the attendants eviscerated and their carcasses carved up. Their heads, hearts, and livers were to be presented to the guests, the limbs to the host, and the remaining portions of flesh and bone to the rest of the ogres. The moment the order was given, the ogres pounced on the attendants like tigers preying on sheep. Munching and crunching, they devoured them in no time at all. The priest nearly died of fear, for this, you see, was his first bitter ordeal since his departure from Chang'an. As he was nursing his horror, light began to grow in the east. The 2 monsters did not retire until dawn, saying, We're beholden to your generous hospitality today. Permit us to repay in kind in another time. They left together. Soon the sun rose high in the sky, but Tripitaka was still in a stupor, unable to discern which way was north, south, east, or west. In that half-dead condition, he suddenly saw an old man approaching, holding a staff in his hands. Walking up to Tripitaka, the man waved his hands and all the ropes snapped. He then blew on Tripitaka, and the monk began to revive. Falling on the ground, he said, I thanked the aged father for saving the life of this poor monk. Get up, the old man said, returning his salute. Have you lost anything? The followers of your poor monk, said Tripitaka, have been eaten by the monsters. I have no idea where my horse is or my luggage. Isn't that your horse over there with the 2 bundles? Asked the old man, pointing with his staff. Tripitaka turned around and discovered that his belongings had indeed remained untouched. Somewhat relieved, he asked the old man, Aged father, what is this place? How do you happen to be here? It is called the Double Fork Ridge, a place infested with tigers and wolves. How did you manage to get here? At the first crow of the cock, said Tripitaka, your poor monk left the district of Heiju. Little did I realize that we had risen too early, and we lost our way, tramping through fog and dew. We came upon this Monster King so exceedingly ferocious that he captured me and my 2 followers. There was also a swarthy fellow called the Bear Mountain Lord, and a husky fellow called the Steer Hermit. They arrived and addressed the Monster King as General Yin. All 3 of them devoured my 2 followers and retired only at dawn. I have no idea where I accrued the fortune and merit that caused the aged father to rescue me here. That Steer Hermit, said the old man, is a wild bull spirit, the Mountain Lord a bear spirit, and General Yin a tiger spirit. The various ogres are all demons of mountains and trees, spirits of strange beasts and wolves. Because of the primal purity of your nature, they cannot devour you. Follow me now, and I shall lead you on your way. Tripitaka could not be more thankful. Fastening the bundles on the saddle and leading his horse, he followed the old man out of the pit and walked toward the main road. He tied the horse to the bushes beside the path and turned to thank the aged father. At that moment, a gentle breeze swept by, and the old man rose into the air and left, riding on a white crane with a crimson head. As the wind subdued, a slip of paper fluttered down with 4 lines of verse written on it. I am the planet Venus from the west, who came to save you by special request. Some pupils divine will come to your aid. Blame not the scriptures for hardships ahead. When Tripitaka read this, he bowed toward the sky, saying, I thank the gold star for seeing me through this ordeal. After that, he led his horse off again on his lonely and melancholy journey. On this ridge truly you have, cold and sowing, the wind of the rainforest, purling and gurgling the water of the brooklets, fragrant and musky wild flowers in bloom. In clutters and clumps, rough rocks piled high, chattering and clattering the apes and the deer, in rank and file the musk and the fallow deer. Chirping and cooing, birds frequently call, silent and still, not one man is in sight. That master shivers and quivers to his anxious mind. This dear horse, sacred and nervous, can barely raise his legs. Ready to abandon his body and sacrifice his life, Tripitaka started up that rugged mountain. He journeyed for half a day, but not a single human being or dwelling was in sight. He was gnawed by hunger and disheartened by the rough road. In that desperate moment, he saw two fierce tigers growling in front of him and several huge snakes circling behind him. Vicious creatures appeared on his left and strange beasts on his right. As he was all by himself, Tripitaka had little alternative but to submit himself to the will of heaven. As if to complete his helplessness, his horse's back was sagging and his legs were buckling. It went to its knees and soon lay prostrate on the ground. He could budge it neither by beating nor by tugging. With hardly an inch of space to stand on, our master of the law was in the depths of despair, thinking that certain death would be his fate. We can tell you, however, that though he was in danger, help was on its way, for just as he thought he was about to expire, the vicious creatures began to scatter, and the monstrous beasts fled. The fierce tigers vanished, and the huge snakes disappeared. When Tripitaka looked further ahead, he saw a man coming over the mountain slope with a steel trident in his hands and bow and arrows at his waist. He was indeed a valiant figure. Look at him. He had on his head a cap, of leopard skin, spotted in artemisia white. He wore on his body a robe of lamb's wool with dark silk brocade. Around his waist was tied a lion king belt, and on his feet he wore tall boots of suede. His eyes would bulge like those of someone hung. His beard curled wildly like a fierce god's. A bow and poisoned arrows hung on him. He held a huge trident of finest steel. His voice, like thunder, appalled mountain cats, and wild pheasants quaked at his translucence. When Tripitaka saw him draw near, he knelt at the side of the path and called out, his hands clasped in front of him, "Great King, save me! Great King, save me!" The fellow came up to Tripitaka and put down his trident. Raising up the monk with his hands, he said, "Don't be afraid, elder, for I'm not a wicked man. I'm a hunter living in this mountain. My surname is Lu, and my given name is Bokin. I also go by the nickname of Senior Guardian of the Mountain. I came here to find some animals to eat, not expecting to run into you. I hope I didn't scare you." "Your poor monk," said Tripitaka, "is a cleric who has been sent by His Majesty the Tang Emperor to seek scriptures from Buddha in the Western Heaven. When I arrived here a few moments ago, I was surrounded by tigers, wolves, and snakes, so that I could not proceed. But when the creatures saw you coming, they all scattered, and you have thus saved my life. Many thanks, many thanks." "Since I live here, and my livelihood depends on killing a few tigers and wolves," said Bokin, "or catching a few snakes and reptiles, I usually frighten the wild beasts away. If you have come from the Tang Empire, you are actually a native here, for this is still Tang territory, and I am a Tang subject. You and I both live off the land belonging to the Emperor, so that we are in truth citizens of the same nation. Don't be afraid. Follow me. You may rest your horse at my place, and I shall see you off in the morning." Tripitaka was filled with delight when he heard these words, and he led his horse to follow the hunter. They passed the slope and again heard the howling of the wind. "Sit here, elder," said Bokin, "and don't move. The sound of that wind tells me that a mountain cat is approaching. I'll take him home so that I can make a meal of him for you." When Tripitaka heard this, his heart hammered and his gall quivered, and he became rooted to the ground. Grasping his trident, that guardian strode forward and came face to face with the great striped tiger. Seeing Bokin, he turned and fled. Like a crack of thunder, the guardian bellowed, "Cursed beast! Where will you flee?" When the tiger saw him pressing near, he turned with flailing claws to spring at him, only to be met by the guardian with uplifted trident. Tripitaka was so terrified that he lay paralyzed on the grass. Since leaving his mother's belly, when had he ever witnessed such violent and dangerous goings-on? The guardian went after that tiger to the foot of the slope, and it was a magnificent battle between man and beast. You see, raging resentment and churning whirlwind. In raging resentment, the potent guardian's hair pushed up his cap. Like churning whirlwind, the striped prince belched dust, displaying his might. This one bared its teeth and wielded its paws. That one stepped sideways, yet turning to fight. The trident reached skyward, reflecting the sun. The striped tail stirred up both fog and cloud. This one stabbed madly at the beast, the breast of its foe. That one, facing him, would swallow him whole. Stay away, and you may live out your years. Join the fray, and you'll meet Yama, the king. You hear the roar of the striped prince and the harsh cries of the guardian. The roar of the striped prince shook mountains and streams to frighten birds and beasts. The harsh cries of the guardian unlocked the heavens to make the stars appear. The gold eyeballs of this one protruded, and wrath burst from the bold heart of that one. Lovable was Lu, the mountain guardian. Praiseworthy was this king of the wild beasts. So tiger and man fought, each craving life, a little slower, and one forfeits his soul. The two of them fought for about an hour, and as the paws of the tiger began to slow and his torso to slacken, he was downed by the guardian's trident, stabbing him through the chest. A pitiful sight it was. The points of the trident pierced the heart, and at once the ground was covered with blood. The guardian then dragged the beast by the ear up the road. What a man! He hardly panted, nor did his face change color. He said to Tripitaka, we're lucky. This mountain cat should be sufficient for a day's food for the elder." Applauding him unceasingly, Tripitaka said, "The guardian is truly a mountain god." "What ability do I have," said Boken, "that I merit such a claim? This is really the good fortune of the father. Let's go. I'd like to skin him quickly so that I can cook some of his meat to entertain you." He held the trident in one hand and dragged the tiger with the other, leading the way while Tripitaka followed him with his horse. They walked together past the slope and all at once came upon a mountain village, in front of which were old trees soaring skyward, roads filled with wild creepers. In countless canyons the wind was cool. On many ridges came strange sounds and sights. One path's wild blooms, their scent clung to one's body. A few poles of bamboo, what enduring green. The portal of grass, the wattle-fenced yard, a picture to paint or sketch. The stone slab bridge, the white earth walls, how charming indeed and rare. Now in the wistful face of autumn, the air was cool and brisk. By the wayside yellow leaves fell. Over the peaks the white clouds drifted. In thinly grown woods the wild fowls twittered, and young dogs yelped outside the village gate. When Boken reached the door of his house, he threw down the dead tiger and called, "Little ones, where are you?" Out came 3 or 4 houseboys, all looking rather unattractive and mean, who hauled the tiger inside. Boken told them to skin it quickly and prepare it for the guest. He then turned around to welcome Tripitaka into his dwelling, and as they greeted each other, Tripitaka thanked him again for the great favor of saving his life. "We are fellow countrymen," said Boken, "and there's little need for you to thank me." After they had sat down and drunk tea, an old woman with someone who appeared to be her daughter-in-law came out to greet Tripitaka. "This is my mother, and this my wife," said Boken. "Pray ask your parent to take the honored seat," said Tripitaka, "and let your poor monk pay his respects." "Father is a guest coming from great distance," said the old woman. "Please relax and don't stand on ceremony." "Mother," said Boken, "he has been sent by the Tang Emperor to seek scriptures from Buddha in the Western Heaven. He met your son just now at the ridge. Since we are fellow countrymen, I invited him to the house to rest his horse. Tomorrow, I shall see him on his way." When she heard these words, the old woman was very pleased. "Good, good, good," she said. "The timing couldn't be better, even if we had planned to invite him. For tomorrow happens to be the anniversary of your late father's death. Let us invite the elder to perform some good deeds and recite an appropriate passage of scripture. We shall see him off day after tomorrow." Although he was a tiger slayer, a so-called guardian of the mountain, our Lu Boken had a good deal of filial feeling for his mother. When he heard what she said, he immediately wanted to prepare the incense and the paper money so that Tripitaka might be asked to stay. As they talked, the sky began to darken. The servants brought chairs and a table and set out several dishes of well-cooked tiger meat, steaming hot. Boken invited Tripitaka to begin, telling him that rice would follow. "Oh dear," said Tripitaka, his hands folded. "To tell you the truth, I have been a monk since leaving my mother's womb, and I have never eaten any meat." Hearing this, Boken reflected a while. He then said, "Elder, for generations this humble family has never kept a vegetarian diet. We could, I suppose, find some bamboo shoots and wood ears, and prepare some dried vegetables and bean cakes. But they would all be cooked with the fat of deer or tigers. Even our pots and pans are grease-soaked. What am I to do? I must ask the elder's pardon." "Don't fret," said Tripitaka. "Enjoy the food yourself. Even if I were not to eat for 3 or 4 days, I could bear the hunger, but I dare not break the dietary commandment." "Suppose you starve to death," said Boken. "What then?" "I am indebted to the heavenly kindness of the guardian," said Tripitaka, "for saving me from the packs of tigers and wolves. Starving to death is better than being food for a tiger." When Boken's mother heard this, she cried, "Son, stop such idle talk with the elder. Let me prepare a vegetarian dish to serve him." "Where would you get such a disc?" "A disc? Where would you get such a dish?" asked Boken. "Never mind, I'll fix it," said the mother. She asked her daughter-in-law to take down a small cooking pan and heat it until much of the grease had burned off. They washed and scrubbed the pan again and again, and then put it back on the stove and boiled some water in it. Taking some elm leaves from the mountains, they made soup with it. After which, they cooked some rice with yellow millet mixed with Indian corn. They also prepared 2 bowls of dried vegetables and brought it all out to the table. "Elder," the aged mother said to Tripitaka, "please have some. This is the cleanest and purest food that my daughter-in-law and I have ever prepared." Tripitaka left his seat to thank her before sitting down again. Boken removed himself to another place. Dishes and bowls full of unsauced and unsalted tiger meat, musk deer meat, serpent meat, fox flesh, rabbit, and strips of cured venison were set before him. To keep Tripitaka company, he sat down and was about to pick up his chopsticks when he saw Tripitaka fold his hands and begin to recite something. Startled, Boken dared not touch his chopsticks. He jumped up instead and stood to one side. Having uttered no more than a few phrases, Tripitaka said to him, "Please eat." "You are a priest who likes to recite short scriptures," said Boken. "That was not scripture," said Tripitaka, "only a prayer to be said before meals." "You people who leave your families," said Boken, "are particular about everything. Even for a meal you have to mumble something." They ate their dinner, and the dishes and bowls were taken away. Evening was setting in when Boken led Tripitaka out of the main hall to go for a walk at the back of the dwelling. They passed through a corridor and arrived at a straw shed. Pushing open the door, they walked inside, where they found several heavy bows and some quivers of arrows hanging on the walls. 2 pieces of tiger skin, stinking and blood-stained, were draped over the cross beams, and a number of spears, knives, tridents, and rods were stuck into the ground at one corner. There were 2 seats in the middle of the shed, and Boken invited Tripitaka to sit for a moment. Seeing that the place was so gruesome and putrid, Tripitaka dared not linger. They soon left the shed and walked further back to a huge garden, where there seemed to be no end of thick clumps of chrysanthemum piling their gold and stands of maple hoisting their crimson. With a loud rustle, more than a dozen fat deer and a large herd of musk deer jumped out. Calm and mild-mannered, they were not at all frightened at the sight of human beings. Tripitaka said, "You must have tamed these animals." "Like the people in your city of Chang'an," said Boken, "where the affluent store up wealth and treasures, and the landlords gather rice and grain, so we hunters must keep some of these wild beasts to prepare against dark days. That's all." As they walked and conversed, it grew dark, and they returned to the house to rest. As soon as the members of the family, young and old, arose next morning, they went to prepare vegetarian food to serve to the priest, who was then asked to begin his recitations. Having first washed his hands, the priest went to the ancestral hall with the guardian to burn incense. Only after he had bowed to the house shrine did Tripitaka beat on his wooden fish and recite first the true sentences for the purification of the mouth, and then the divine formula for the purification of mind and body. He went on to the Sutra for the salvation of the dead, after which Boken requested him to compose in writing a specific prayer for the deliverance of the deceased. He then took up the Diamond Sutra and the Guanyin Sutra, each of which was given a loud and clear recitation. After lunch, he recited several sections from the Lotus Sutra and the Amitaya Sutra, before finishing with the Peacock Sutra and a brief recounting of the story of Buddha healing a bhiksu. Soon it was evening again. All kinds of incense were burned together with the various paper horses, images of the deities, and the prayer for the deliverance of the deceased. The Buddhist service was thus completed, and each person retired. We shall now tell you about the soul of Boken's father, verily a ghost redeemed from perdition, who came to his own house and appeared to all the members of his family in a dream. It was difficult, he said, for me to escape my bitter ordeals in the region of darkness, and for a long time I could not attain salvation. Fortunately, the holy monk's recitations have now expiated my sins. I've read that word and I understand what it means, but I've never actually thought about how it's pronounced, so hopefully that was correct. King Yama has ordered someone to send me to the rich land of China, where I may assume my next incarnation in a noble family. All of you, therefore, must take care to thank the elder, and see that you are not negligent in any way. Now I leave you. So it is that there is in all things a solemn purpose, to save the dead from perdition and pain. When the whole family awoke from the dream, the sun was already rising in the east. The wife of Boken said, "Guardian, I dreamed last night that father came to the house. He said that it was difficult for him to escape his bitter ordeals in the region of darkness, and that for a long time he could not attain salvation. Fortunately, the holy monk's recitations have now expiated his sins, and King Yama has ordered someone to send him to the rich land of China, where he may assume his next incarnation in a noble family. He told us to take care to thank the elder and not be negligent in any way." After he had finished speaking, he drifted away, despite my plea for him to stay. I woke up, and it was all a dream. "I had a dream also," said Boken, "one exactly like yours. Let's get up and talk to Mother about this." The two of them were about to do so when they heard the old mother calling, "Boken, come here. I want to talk to you." They went in and found the mother sitting up in bed. "Son," she said, "I had a happy dream last night. I dreamed that your father came to the house saying that, thanks to the redemption work of the elder, his sins had been expiated." I really think I'm mispronouncing that. Sorry, guys. "He is on his way to the rich land of China, where he will assume his next incarnation in a noble family." Husband and wife laughed uproariously. Boken said, "Your daughter-in-law and I both had this dream, and we were just coming to tell you. Little did we expect that Mother's call also had to do with this dream." They therefore called on every member of the family to express their gratitude and prepare the monk's horse for travel. They came bowing before the priest and said, "We thank the elder for providing life and deliverance for our deceased father, for which we can never repay you sufficiently." "What has this poor monk accomplished," said Tripitaka, "that merits such gratitude?" Boken gave a thorough account of the dream that the three of them had, and Tripitaka was also very pleased. A vegetarian meal was again served, and a tael of silver was presented as a token of their gratitude. Tripitaka refused to accept so much as a penny, though the whole family begged him earnestly. He only said, "If, in compassion, you can escort me on the first part of my way, I shall ever be grateful for such kindness." Boken and his mother and wife had little alternative but hastily to prepare some biscuits from unrefined flour, which Tripitaka was glad to accept. Boken was told to escort him as far as possible. Obeying his mother's bidding, the guardian also ordered several houseboys to join them, each bringing hunting equipment and weapons. They walked to the main road, and there seemed to be no end to the scenic splendor of the mountains and peaks. When they had traveled for half a day, they came upon a huge mountain so tall and rugged that it truly seemed to touch the blue sky. In a little while, the whole company reached the foot of the mountain, and the guardian began to ascend it as if he were walking on level ground. Halfway up, Boken turned around and stood still at the side of the road, saying, "Elder, please go on yourself. I must now take leave of you and turn back." When Tripitaka heard these words, he rolled down from his saddle and said, "I beg you to escort me a little further." "You do not realize, Elder," said Boken, "that this mountain is called the Mountain of Two Frontiers. The eastern half belongs to our great Tang domain, but the western half is the territory of the Tartars." Tartars? The tigers and wolves over there are not my subjects, nor should I cross the border. You must proceed by yourself. Tripitaka became fearful. He stretched out his hands and clutched at the sleeves of the hunter, tears pouring from his eyes. It was at this tender moment of farewell that there came from beneath the mountain a thunderous voice crying, "My master has come! My master has come!" Tripitaka was dumbfounded, and Boken trembled. We do not know who was crying. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter. I think I know who it is. Who do you guys think it is? It's kind of wicked obvious, so. If you've been along for the ride since the beginning, it should be obvious, I think. I'm glad you have a better memory than me, Dom. Max was there when we got there, and you asked me where I was because you didn't remember exactly. Yarg. Yeah. I'm assuming you mean super duper loopy. A little bit, yeah. Lord knows why. I think it's because it's basically my Tuesday because I took Veterans Day off. Another thing I picked up on this, they say the phrase, we should, yeah. Yep. I think that's probably just a translation thing because there are certain phrases used very common in Asian languages. I guess I can't really speak for all Asian languages, but for Japanese, which is a bit of a derivative of Chinese, so follows similar structure. There are phrases that they use commonly that aren't necessarily colloquialisms that we use frequently, like they do. Or it might just be a literal translation of something where it's not necessarily the meaning, but it's the closest thing to it. Hopefully the sound continued throughout. Yeah, try not to jinx me, Dom. You know how I feel about that shit. Yeah, I was a little surprised, but since it was just the attendants, they were a noble sacrifice. At least in this story, it would seem, yeah. Oh, hey, Cliff. Yeah, you're so funny. So cute. But thanks for my snacks. It's so funny how, like, it... Okay, I'm going to pull it up on YouTube. I presume you didn't type out :crayon:. It's very weird because it does show the one crayon. I don't... Whatever. Whatever, StreamYard. You're freaking weird. Wow. Yeah, okay, so I saw this when I was in the middle of reading. Well, it wasn't the middle of reading. I had paused to take a drink and I looked back and I kind of giggled. I don't know why, but probably tastes, I mean, it's going to be gamey. I mean, it probably just tastes like cougar, but I haven't had that either. I'm going to say it's a red meat. Yeah, I was thinking that whole time, you could have been telling him this. It's not like you haven't eaten meat your entire life to where it would be an instant thought, oh, don't worry about me. I don't eat meat. I'll be okay. But no, you just let him continue on. Obviously, the meat's going to get used, but I just thought it was funny. Oh, yeah. He definitely is really good with that. If any of you know who Tobuscus is, the reason that I said tartars is because of him. You should look up mini Minotartar. It is great. It is old YouTube. And it is glorious. And I may just watch it after this because of that. Not gonna lie. I don't believe you, Cliff. I've learned to not believe you really with anything. Fine. I'll be fair with most things. If it even remotely seems like sarcasm from you, I'm not going to believe it. But then you're going to use that against me when you're actually serious and make it sound like sarcasm. And then you can be like, oh, she's so mean. I got a lock on you, sir. Blue-eyed Scorpio, hello. How's it going? Going to steal Griffin from Damascus. Oh, that's great. I heard Sam is not showing up anymore because he's upset you're not reading a Shirley Jackson book. Yeah, Sam really does miss her, I'm sure. As much as I miss her. You shouldn't be the first one to tell you don't ever trust me. Noted. I mean, that was well noted like months ago. But it was easily noted as I am sarcastic as well. It's like my lifeblood. Yes, I do think it's the monkey. Sorry, I was assuming that was your guess. I don't understand why there are so many main characters that have to have multiple names, by the way. Like Tripitaka is friggin' Zhuan Zhang, but he's also like the, what was it, River something? Like his first name when he was born was something to do with the river because that's where the monk found him. I know it was at least in the title. Guanyin. Guanyin's his dad, though. It's interesting. I feel like it's a cultural thing. I know that it's like in a title somewhere. Oh, darn it. I'm gonna find it. Tall giants, foolish schemes, habits, decrees. Gonna find it because it's gonna bother me. I have a problem because River Tam is stuck in my head, so I can't think of anything past that to remember what this stupid kid's name is. Guan Gui. River Float! Ha! I knew it was in the title of a chapter. I win! Ha-ha! If only I could win by remembering things rather than having to go find it. You don't know. He could be just a really old dog. Yes, I think it's the monkey. Yeah, I'm so mean to you all the time. Shut up. Don't agree with them using multiple names just to be contrarian. Why do I hang out with you guys? Hang out virtually. You're all very similar little contrarians. But they still don't have as many names as a monkey. I think it's like 100. Yes, that's very true. Do I even want to know? Oh, Clifford. I get it. Never mind. I'm slow, but I get there. The Clip Commander. Clipperson. That's not... Oh, I have nicknames as well. I had like a softball nickname, which was hilarious, and it confused people a lot. I also had bullies who loved to nickname me. I mean, I wasn't claiming anyone was degenerate. More smart ass like. Why can't you go with smart ass? I prefer that over degenerate. Because I'm definitely not that. You really don't have to tell a Marine that. Yeah. I don't know if I want to know anything further with that clip. All right. Real quick, I'm going to go warm up my tea. I'll be right back. I'm back. I'm judging you for this, Legatus. Harshly. Don't agree with him. What's with Ryan going live again tonight? He did that last week too. Is this something new he's doing? So yeah, I watched the replay last week, and I think he did a poll in the chat asking if he should make it a weekly thing. I did appreciate that it was an hour before this started, at least, because last week I think it was either 6 the same time this started or maybe a half hour after I started. I'm like, I can't very well watch you if I'm streaming myself. Come on. Obviously, I don't know if it's still going on, but I left it once this started. Clearly. I guess I could be like Kamala and put like a earbud in my ear and listen while I'm streaming, but I'm not that dedicated to him. Damn, 2 hours? All right, Ryan. Whatever. Wait, does that mean that you left my stream to go watch his, Dom? How dare you? I can't believe you would leave. I'm just gonna go cry now. It's fine. I'm fine. It'll be okay. I don't believe you, Dom. Really, Kat? I'll be right back. Cat needed inside. When I went to warm the tea up, I checked the front door to see if he wanted in, but no, he was nowhere in sight. Why would he be? And of course, right when I was about to start the chapter. Knock, knock, knock. Yes, I have a cat door and they can knock. Judge me. I don't care. Chapter 14. Mind Monkey returns to the right. Ooh. Did he vote for Trump? The 6 robbers vanish from sight. Mind is the Buddha, and the Buddha is mind. Both mind and Buddha are important things. If you perceive there's neither mind nor thing, yours is the Dharmakaya of true mind. The Dharmakaya has no shape or form, one pearl-like radiance holding myriad things. The bodiless body is the body true, and real form is that form which has no form. There's no form, no void, no emptiness. No coming, no leaving, no parinamana, no contrast, no sameness, no being or non-being. No giving, no taking, no hopeful craving. Light efficacious is in and out the same. Buddha's whole realm is in a grain of sand. A grain of sand, the chiliocosm holds. No idea what that means. One mind or bodies like 10,000 things. To know this, you must grasp the no-mind spell. Unclogged and taintless is the karma pure. Don't do the many acts of good or ill. This is true submission to Sakyamuni. We were telling you about Tripitaka and Bokin, who, in fear and alarm, again heard the cry, "My master has come." The various houseboys said, "It must be the old ape in that stone box beneath the mountain who is shouting." It's he, said the guardian. Tripitaka asked, "Who is this old ape?" The ancient name of this mountain, said the guardian, was the Mountain of 5 Phases. It was changed to the Mountain of the 2 Frontiers as a result of our great Tang ruler's Western campaigns to secure his empire. A few years ago, I heard from my elders that during the time when Wang Mang usurped the throne of the Han Emperor, this mountain fell from heaven with a divine monkey clamped beneath it. He feared neither heat nor cold, and he took neither food nor drink. He had been watched and guarded by the spirits of the earth, who fed him iron balls when he was hungry and juices of bronze when he was thirsty. He has lasted from that time until now, surviving both cold and hunger. He must be the one who is making all this noise. Don't be afraid, elder. Let's go down the mountain to take a look. Tripitaka had to agree and led his horse down the mountain. They had traveled only a few miles when they came upon a stone box in which there was indeed a monkey who, with his head sticking out, was waving his hands wildly and crying, "Master, why have you taken so long to get here? Welcome, welcome. Get me out and I'll protect you on your way to the western heaven." The priest went forward to look more closely at him. How does he look, you ask? A pointed mouth and hollow cheeks, 2 diamond pupils and fiery eyes. Lichens had piled on his head. Wisteria grew in his ears. By his temples was more green grass than hair. Beneath his chin, moss instead of a beard. With mud on his brow and earth in his nose, he looked most desperate. His fingers, coarse and calloused palms, were caked in filth and dirt. Luckily, his eyes could still roll about, and the apish tongue articulate. Though in speech he had great ease, his body he could not move. He was the great sage son of 500 years ago. Today his ordeal ends. He leaves heaven's net. Undeniably a courageous person, the guardian Lu went up to the creature and pulled away some of the grass at his temples and some of the moss beneath his chin. He asked, "What do you have to say?" "Nothing to you," said the monkey. "But ask that master to come up here. I have a question for him." "What's your question?" asked Tripitaka. "Are you someone sent by the great king of the land of the east to go seek scriptures in the western heaven?" asked the monkey. "I am," said Tripitaka. "Why do you ask?" "I am the great sage equal to heaven," said the monkey, "who greatly disturbed the heavenly palace 500 years ago. Because of my sin of rebellion and disobedience, I was imprisoned here by the Buddha. Some time ago, a certain Bodhisattva Guanyin had received the decree of Buddha to go to the land of the East in quest of a scripture pilgrim. I asked her to give me some help, and she persuaded me not to engage again in violence. I was told to believe in the law of Buddha and faithfully to protect the scripture pilgrim on his way to worship Buddha in the West, for there would be a goodly reward reserved for me when such merit is achieved. I have therefore been maintaining my vigilance night and day, waiting for the master to come to rescue me. I'm willing to protect you in your quest of scriptures and become your disciple." Then, when Tripitaka heard these words, he was filled with delight and said, "Though you have this good intention, thanks to the Bodhisattva's instruction of entering our Buddhist fold, I have neither axe nor drill. How can I free you?" "No need for axe or drill," said the monkey. "If you are willing to rescue me, I'll be able to get out." Tripitaka said, "I'm willing, but how can you get out?" "On top of this mountain," said the monkey, "there is a tag stamped with the golden letters of our Buddha Tathagata. Go up there and lift up the tag. Then I'll come out." Tripitaka agreed and turned to Boken, imploring him. "Guardian, come with me up the mountain." "Do you think he's speaking the truth?" asked Boken. "It's the truth," the monkey shouted. "I dare not lie." Boken had no choice but to call his houseboys to lead the horses. He himself supported Tripitaka with his hands, and they again started up the tall mountain. Tugging at creepers and vines, they finally arrived at the highest peak, where they beheld 10,000 shafts of golden light and 1,000 folds of hallowed air. There was a huge square slab of stone on which was taped a seal with the golden letters Om Mani Padme Hum. Tripitaka approached the stone and knelt down. He looked at the golden letters and kowtowed several times to the stone. Then, facing the west, he prayed, "Your disciple, Chen Zhuangzang, was specifically commanded to seek scriptures from you. If it is so ordained that he should be my disciple, let me lift up those golden letters so that the divine monkey may find release and join me at the Spirit Mountain. If he is not predestined to be my disciple, if he is only a cruel monster trying to deceive me and to bring misfortune to our enterprise, let me not lift up this tape." He kowtowed again after he had prayed. Going forward with the greatest of ease, he took down the golden letters. A fragrant wind swept up immediately and blew the tag out of his hands into the air as a voice called out, "I am the prison guard of the great sage. Today his ordeal is completed, and my colleagues and I are returning to this seal to Tathagata." Tripitaka, Boken, and their followers were so terrified that they fell on the ground and bowed toward the sky. They then descended from the tall mountain and came back to the stone box, saying to the monkey, "The tag has been lifted. You may come out." Delighted, the monkey said, "Master, you had better walk away from me here so that I can come out. I don't want to frighten you." When Boken heard this, he led Tripitaka and the rest of the company to walk back eastward for 5 or 6 miles. Again, they heard the monkey yelling, "Further still, further still." So Tripitaka and the others went still further until they had left the mountain. All at once came a crash so loud that it was as if the mountain was cracking and the earth splitting wide open. Everyone was awestruck. The next moment, the monkey was already in front of Tripitaka's horse, completely naked. He knelt down and cried, "Master, I'm out." He bowed 4 times toward Tripitaka, and then, jumping up, he said to Boken respectfully, "I thank elder brother for taking the trouble of escorting my master. I'm grateful also for your shaving the grass from my face." Having thanked him, he went at once to put the luggage in order so that it could be tied onto the horse's back. When the horse saw him, its torso slackened and its legs stiffened. In fear and trembling, it could hardly stand up. For you see, that monkey had been a ban horse plague, who used to look after dragon horses in the celestial stables. His authority was such that horses of this world inevitably would fear him when they saw him. When Tripitaka saw that the monkey was truly a person of good intentions, someone who truly resembled those who had embraced the Buddhist faith, he called to him, "Disciple, what is your surname?" "My surname is Sun," said the Monkey King. "Let me give you a religious name," said Tripitaka, "so that it will be convenient to address you." "This noble thought of the master is deeply appreciated," said the Monkey King, "but I already have a religious name. I'm called Sun Wukong." "It exactly fits the emphasis of our denomination," said Tripitaka, delighted. "But look at you. You look rather like a little Duda. Let me give you a nickname and call you Pilgrim Sun." "How's that?" "Good, good," said Wukong. So from then on, he was also called Pilgrim Sun. When Boken saw that Pilgrim Sun was definitely preparing to leave, he turned to speak respectfully to Tripitaka, saying, "Elder, you are fortunate to have made an excellent disciple here. Congratulations! This person should be most fit to accompany you. I must take leave of you now." Bowing to thank him, Tripitaka said, "I cannot thank you enough for all your kindness. Please be certain to thank your dear mother and wife when you return to your house. I have caused you all great inconvenience, and I shall thank you again on my way back." Boken returned his salutation, and they parted. We shall now tell you about Pilgrim Sun, who asked Tripitaka to mount his horse. He himself, stark naked, carried the luggage on his back and led the way. In a little while, as they were passing the mountain of two frontiers, they saw a fierce tiger approaching, growling and waving its tail. Tripitaka, sitting on his horse, became alarmed, but Pilgrim, walking at the side of the road, was delighted. "Don't be afraid, master," he said, "for he's here to present me with some clothes." He put down the luggage and took a tiny needle out of his ears. One wave of it facing the wind, and it became an iron rod with the thickness of a rice bowl. He held it in his hands and laughed, saying, "I haven't used this treasure for over 500 years. Today I'm taking it out to bag a little garment for myself. Look at him." He strode right up to the tiger, crying, "Cursed beast, where do you think you're going?" Crouching low, the tiger lay prone on the dust and dared not move. Pilgrim Sun aimed the rod at its head, and one stroke caused its brain to burst out like 10,000 red petals of peach blossoms, and the teeth to fly out like so many pieces of white jade. So terrified was our Chen Xuanzang that he fell off his horse. Oh God, he cried, biting his fingers. When Guardian Lu overcame that striped tiger the other day, he had to do battle with him for almost half a day. But without even fighting today, Sun Wukong reduces the tiger to pulp with one blow of his rod. How true is the saying, for the strong, there's always someone stronger. "Master," said Pilgrim as he returned dragging the tiger, "sit down for a while and wait till I have stripped him of his clothes. When I put them on, we'll start off again." "Where does he have any clothes?" asked Tripitaka. "Don't mind me, master," said Pilgrim. "I have my own plan." Dear Monkey King. He pulled off one strand of hair and blew a mouthful of magic breath onto it, crying, "Change." It changed into a sharp, curved knife with which he ripped open the tiger's chest. Slitting the skin straight down, he then ripped it off in one piece. He chopped away the paws and the head, cutting the skin into one square piece. He picked it up and tried it for size, and then said, "It's a bit too large. One piece can be made into two." He took the knife and cut it again into two pieces. He put one of these away and wrapped the other around his waist. Ripping off a strand of rattan from the side of the road, he firmly tied on this covering for the lower part of his body. "Master," he said, let's go. When we reach someone's house, we will have sufficient time to borrow some threads and a needle to sew this up." He gave his iron rod a squeeze, and it changed back into a tiny needle, which he stored in his ear. Throwing the luggage on his back, he asked his master to mount the horse. As they set off, the monkey asked him, "Wukong, how is it that The monk asked him, "Wukong, how is it that the iron rod you used to slay the tiger has disappeared?" "Master," said Pilgrim, laughing, "you have no idea what that rod of mine really is. It was acquired originally from the Dragon Palace in the Eastern Ocean. It's called the precious divine iron for guarding the heavenly river, and another name of it is the compliant golden hooped rod. At the time when I revolted against heaven, I depended on it a great deal, for it could change into any shape or form, great or small, according to my wish. Just now I had it changed into a tiny embroidery needle, and it's stored that way in my ear. When I need it, I'll take it out. Secretly pleased by what he heard, Tripitaka asked another question. Why did that tiger become completely motionless when it saw you? How do you explain the fact that it simply let you hit it? To tell you the truth, said Wukong, even a dragon, let alone this tiger, would behave itself if it had seen me. I, old monkey, possess the ability to subdue dragons and tame tigers, and the power to overturn rivers and stir up oceans. I can look at a person's countenance and discern his character. I can listen merely to sounds and discover the truth. If I want to be big, I can fill the universe. If I want to be small, I can be smaller than a piece of hair. In sum, I have boundless ways of transformation and incalculable means of becoming visible or invisible. What's so strange, then, about my skinning a tiger? Wait till we come to some real difficulties. You'll see my talents then. When Tripitaka heard these words, he was more relieved than ever and urged his horse forward. So master and disciple, the two of them, chatted as they journeyed, and soon the sun sank in the west. You see, soft glow of the fading twilight, and distant clouds slowly returning. On every hill swells the chorus of birds, flocking to shelter in the woods. The wild beasts in couples and pairs, in packs and groups, they trek homeward. The new moon, hook-like, breaks the spreading gloom, with 10,000 stars luminous. Pilgrim said, Master, let's move along, for it's getting late. There are dense clumps of trees over there, and I suppose there must be a house or village, too. Let's hurry over there and ask for lodging. Urging his horse forward, Tripitaka went straight up to a house and dismounted. Pilgrim threw down the bag and went to the door, crying, Open up! Open up! An old man came to the door, leaning on a cane. When he pulled open the creaking door, he was panic-stricken by the hideous appearance of Pilgrim, who had the tiger skin around his waist and looked like a thunder god. He began to shout, a ghost, and other such foolish words. Tripitaka drew near and took hold of him, saying, Old patron, don't be afraid. He is my disciple, not a ghost. Only when he looked up and saw the handsome features of Tripitaka did the old man stand still. Which temple are you from? He asked, and why are you bringing such a nasty character to my door? I am a poor monk from the Tang court, said Tripitaka, on my way to seek scriptures from Buddha in the western heaven. We were passing through here, and it was getting late. That is why we made so bold as to approach your great mansion and beg you for a night's lodging. We plan to leave tomorrow before it's light, and we beseech you not to deny our request. Though you may be a Tang man, the old man said, that nasty character is certainly no Tang man. Old fellow, cried Wukong in a loud voice, you really can't see, can you? The Tang man is my master, and I am his disciple. Of course, I'm no sugar man or honey man. I am the great sage, equal to heaven. The members of your family should recognize me. Moreover, I have seen you before. Where have you seen me before? When you were young, said Wukong. Didn't you gather firewood before my eyes? Didn't you haul vegetables before my face? The old man said, That's nonsense. Where did you live? And where was I that I should have gathered firewood and hauled vegetables before your eyes? Only my son would talk nonsense, said Wukong. You really don't recognize me. Take a closer look. I am the great sage in the stone box of this mountain of two frontiers. You do look somewhat like him, said the old man, half recognizing the figure before him. But how did you get out? Wukong thereupon gave a thorough account of how the Bodhisattva had converted him, and how she had asked him to wait for the Tang monk to lift the tag for his deliverance. After that, the old man bowed deeply and invited Tripitaka in, calling for his aged wife and his children to come out and meet the guests. When he told them what had happened, everyone was delighted. Tea was then served, after which the old man asked Wukong, How old are you, great sage? And how old are you? Asked Wukong. I have lived foolishly for 130 years, said the old man. You are still my great-great-great-great-grandson, said Pilgrim. I can't remember when I was born, but I have spent over 500 years underneath this mountain. Yes, said the old man. I remember my great-grandfather saying that when this mountain dropped from the sky, it had a divine ape clamped underneath it. To think that you should have waited until now for your freedom. When I saw you in my childhood, you had grass on your head and mud on your face, but I wasn't afraid of you then. Now, without mud on your face and grass on your head, you seem a bit thinner. And with that huge piece of tiger skin draped around your waist, what great difference is there between you and a demon?" When the members of his family heard this remark, they all roared with laughter. Being a rather decent fellow, that old man at once ordered a vegetarian meal to be prepared. Afterwards, Wukong said, "What is your family name?" "Our humble family," said the old man, "goes by the name of Chen." When Tripitaka heard this, he left his seat to salute him, saying, "Old patron, you and I share the same illustrious clan." "Master," said Pilgrim, "your surname is Tang. How can it be that you and he share the same illustrious ancestors?" Tripitaka said, "The surname of my secular family is also Chen, and I come from the Zhukshan village in the Hongnong district of Haijiao in the Tang domain. My religious name is Chen Zhuanzang. Because our great Tang Emperor Taizong made me his brother by decree, I took the name Tripitaka and used Tang as my surname. Hence, I'm called the Tang monk." The old man was very pleased to hear that they had the same surname. "Old Chen," said Pilgrim, "I must trouble your family some more, for I haven't taken a bath for 500 years. Please go and boil some water so that my master and I, his disciple, can wash ourselves. We shall thank you all the more when we leave." The old man at once gave the order for water to be boiled and basins to be brought in with several lamps. As master and disciple sat before the lamps after their baths, Pilgrim said, "Old Chen, I still have one more favor to ask of you. Can you lend me a needle and some thread?" Of course," replied the old man. One of the Amas was told to fetch the needle and thread, which were then handed over to Pilgrim. Pilgrim, you see, had the keenest sight. He noticed that Tripitaka had taken off a shirt made of white cloth and had not put it on after his bath. Pilgrim grabbed it and put it on himself. Taking off his tiger skin, he sewed the hems together using a horse face fold and fastened it around his waist again with a strand of rattan. He paraded in front of his master, saying, "How does old monkey look today compared with the way he looked yesterday?" "Very good," said Tripitaka, "very good. Now you do look like a pilgrim. If you don't think that the shirt is too worn or old, you may keep it." "Thanks for the gift," said Wukong respectfully. He then went out to find some hay to feed the horse, after which master and disciple both retired with the old man and his household. The next morning, Wukong arose and woke up his master to get ready for the journey. Tripitaka dressed himself while Wukong put their luggage in order. They were about to leave when the old man brought in washing water and some vegetarian food, and so they did not set out until after the meal. Tripitaka rode his horse with Pilgrim leading the way. They journeyed by day and rested by night, taking food and drink according to their needs. Soon it was early winter. You see frost-blighted maples and the wizened trees. Few verdant pine and cypress still on the ridge. Budding plum blossoms spread their gentle scent. The brief warm day, a little spring gift. By dying lilies yield to the lush wild tea. A cold bridge struggles against an old tree's bough, and gurgling water flows in the winding brook. Gray clouds, snow-laden, float throughout the sky. The strong cold wind tears at the sleeve. How does one bear this chilly might of night? Master and disciple had traveled for some time when suddenly 6 men jumped out from the side of the road with much clamor, all holding long spears and short swords, sharp blades, and strong bows. "Stop, monk," they cried. "Leave your horse and drop your bag at once, and we'll let you pass on alive." Tripitaka was so terrified that his soul left him and his spirit fled. He fell from his horse, unable to utter a word. But Pilgrim lifted him up, saying, "Don't be alarmed, master. It's nothing, really, just some people coming to give us clothes and a travel allowance." "Wukong," said Tripitaka, "you must be a little hard of hearing. They told us to leave our bag and our horse, and you want to ask them for clothes and a travel allowance?" "You just stay here and watch our belongings," said Pilgrim, "and let old monkey confront them. We'll see what happens." Tripitaka said, "Even a good punch is no match for a pair of fists, and 2 fists can't cope with 4 hands. There are 6 big fellows over there, and you are such a tiny person. How can you have the nerve to confront them?" As he always had been audacious, Pilgrim did not wait for further discussion. He walked forward with arms folded and saluted the 6 men, saying, "Sirs, for what reason are you blocking the path of this poor monk?" "We are kings of the highway," said the men, "philanthropic mountain lords. Our fame has long been known, though you seem to be ignorant of it. Leave your belongings at once, and you will be allowed to pass. If you but utter half a no, you'll be chopped to pieces. I have been also a great hereditary king and a mountain lord for centuries," said Pilgrim, "but I have yet to learn of your illustrious names." "So you really don't know," one of them said. "Let's tell you then. One of us is named Eye that sees and delights. Another, Ear that hears and rages. Another, Nose that smells and loves. Another, Tongue that tastes and desires. Another, Mind that perceives and covets. And another, Body that bears and suffers. You are nothing but 6 hairy brigands," said Wukong, laughing, "who have failed to recognize in me a person who has left the family your proper master. How dare you bar my way? Bring out the treasures you have stolen so that you and I can divide them into 7 portions. I'll spare you then." Hearing this, the robbers all reacted with rage and amusement, covetousness and fear, desire and anxiety. They rushed forward crying, "You reckless monk! You haven't a thing to offer us, and yet you want us to share our loot with you?" Wielding spears and swords, they surrounded Pilgrim and hacked away at his head 70 or 80 times. Pilgrim stood in their midst and behaved as if nothing were happening. "What a monk," said one of the robbers. "He really does have a hard head." "Passably so," said Pilgrim, laughing. "But your hands must be getting tired from all that exercise. It's about time for old Monkey to take out his needle for a little entertainment." "This monk must be an acupuncture man in disguise," said the robber. "We're not sick. What's all this about using a needle?" Pilgrim reached into his ear and took out a tiny embroidery needle. One wave of it in the wind, and it became an iron rod with the thickness of a rice bowl. He held it in his hand, saying, "Don't run. Let old Monkey try his hand on you with this rod." The 6 robbers fled in all directions, but with great strides he caught up with them and rounded all of them up. He beat every one of them to death, stripped them of their clothes, and seized their valuables. Then Pilgrim came back smiling broadly and said, "You may proceed now, master. Those robbers have been exterminated by old Monkey." "That's a terrible thing you have done," said Tripitaka. "They may have been strong men on the highway, but they would not have been sentenced to death even if they had been caught and tried. If you have such abilities, you should have chased them away. Why did you slay them all? How can you be a monk when you take life without cause? We who have left the family should keep ants out of harm's way when we sweep the floor, and put shades on lamps for the love of moths. How can you kill them just like that, without regard for black or white? You showed no mercy at all. It's a good thing that we are here in the mountains, where any further investigation will be unlikely. But suppose someone offends you when we reach a city and you perpetrate violence again, hitting people indiscriminately with that rod of yours. Would I be able to remain innocent and get away scot-free?" "Master," said Wukong, "if I hadn't killed them, they would have killed you." Tripitaka said, "As a priest, I would rather die than practice violence. If I were killed, there would be only one of me, but you slaughtered 6 persons. How can you justify that? If this matter were brought before a judge, and even if your old man were the judge, you certainly would not be able to justify your action." "To tell you the truth, master," said Pilgrim, "when I, old Monkey, was king on the Flower Fruit Mountain 500 years ago, I killed I don't know how many people. I would not have been a great sage equal to heaven if I had lived by what you are saying." "It's precisely because you had neither scruples nor self-control," said Tripitaka, "unleashing your waywardness on earth and spreading outrage in heaven, that you had to undergo this ordeal for 500 years. Now that you have entered the fold of Buddhism, if you still insist on practicing violence and indulge in the taking of life as before, you are not worthy to be a monk, nor can you go to the Western heaven. You're wicked. You're just too wicked." Now this monkey had never in all his life been able to tolerate scolding. When he heard Tripitaka's persistent reprimand, he could not suppress the flames leaping up in his heart. "If that's what you think," he said, "if you think I'm not worthy to be a monk, nor can I go to the Western heaven, you needn't bother me further with your nagging. I'll leave and go back." Before Tripitaka had time to reply, Pilgrim was already so enraged that he leapt into the air, crying only, "Old Monkey's off!" Tripitaka quickly raised his head to look, but the monkey had already disappeared. trailed only by a swishing sound fading fast toward the east. Left by himself, the priest could only shake his head and sigh. That fellow, he's so unwilling to be taught. I only said a few words to him. How could he vanish without a trace and go back just like that? Well, well, well. It must be also that I am destined to not have a disciple or any other companion, for now I couldn't even call him or locate him if I wanted to. I might as well go on by myself. So he was prepared to lay down his life and go toward the west, to be his own master and on none rely. The elder had little alternative but to pack up his bag and put it on the horse, which he did not even bother to mount. Holding his staff in one hand and the reins in the other, he set off sadly toward the west. He had not traveled far when he saw an old woman before him on the mountain road, holding a silk garment and a cap with floral design. When Tripitaka saw her approach, he hastened to pull his horse aside for her to pass. "Elder, where do you come from?" asked the old woman, "and why are you walking here all by yourself?" Tripitaka replied, "Your child was sent by the great king of the land of the East to seek true scriptures from the living Buddha in the western heaven." "The Buddha of the West," said the old woman, "lives in the great temple of Thunderclap in the territory of India, and the journey there is 108,000 miles long. You are all by yourself, with neither a companion nor a disciple. How can you possibly think of going there?" "A few days ago," said Tripitaka, "I did pick up a disciple, a rather unruly and headstrong character. I scolded him a little, but he refused to be taught and disappeared." The old woman said, "I have here a silk shirt and a flower cap inlaid with gold, which used to belong to my son. He had been a monk for only 3 days when unfortunately he died. I have just finished mourning him at the temple, where I was given these things by his master to be kept in his memory. Father, since you have a disciple, I'll give the shirt and the cap to you." "I'm most grateful for your lavish gifts," said Tripitaka, "but my disciple has left. I dare not take them." "Where did he go?" asked the old woman. Tripitaka replied, "I heard a swishing sound heading toward the east. My home is not too far away in the east," said the old woman, "and he may be going there. I have a spell which is called the True Words of Controlling the Mind, or the Tight Fillet spell. You must memorize it secretly. Commit it firmly to your memory, and don't let anyone learn of it. I'll try to catch up with him and persuade him to come back and follow you. When he returns, give him the shirt and the cap to wear, and if he again refuses to obey you, recite the spell silently. He will not dare do violence or leave you again." On hearing these words, Tripitaka bowed his head to thank her. The old woman changed herself into a shaft of golden light and vanished toward the east. Then Tripitaka realized that it was the Bodhisattva Guanyin who had taught him the true words. He hurriedly picked up a few pinches of earth with his fingers and scattered them like incense, bowing reverently toward the east. He then took the shirt and the cap and hid them in his bag. Sitting beside the road, he began to recite the true words for controlling the mind. After a few times, he knew it thoroughly by heart, but we shall speak no more of him for the time being. We now tell you about Wukong, who, having left his master, headed straight toward the Eastern Ocean with a single cloud somersault. He stopped his cloud, opened up a path in the water, and went directly to the Water Crystal Palace. Learning of his arrival, the Dragon King came out to welcome him. After they had exchanged greetings and sat down, the Dragon King said, "I heard recently that the ordeal of the great sage had been completed, and I apologize for not having congratulated you yet. I suppose you have again taken occupancy in your immortal mountain and returned to the ancient cave." "I was so inclined," said Wukong, "but I became a monk instead." "What sort of a monk?" asked the Dragon King. "I was indebted to the Bodhisattva of South Sea," said Pilgrim, "who persuaded me to do good and seek the truth. I was to follow the Tang monk from the land of the East to go worship Buddha in the West. Since entering the fold of Buddhism, I was given also the name Pilgrim." "That is indeed praiseworthy," said the Dragon King. "You have, as we say, left the wrong and followed the right. You have been created anew by setting your mind on goodness. But if that's the case, why are you not going toward the west, but are returning eastward instead?" Pilgrim laughed and said, "That Tang monk knows nothing of human nature. There were a few ruffians who wanted to rob us, and I slew them all. But that Tang monk couldn't stop nagging me, telling me over and over how wrong I was. Can you imagine old monkey putting up with that sort of tedium? I just left him. I was on my way back to my mountain when I decided to come visit you and ask for a cup of tea. Thanks for coming, exclaimed the Dragon King. At that moment, the dragon's sons and grandsons presented them with aromatic tea. When they finished the tea, Pilgrim happened to turn around and saw hanging behind him on a wall a painting on the presentation of shoes at Ye Bridge. What's this all about? Asked Pilgrim. The Dragon King replied, The incident depicted in the painting took place some time after you were born, and you may not recognize what it was. The threefold presentation of shoes at Ye Bridge. What do you mean by the threefold presentation of shoes? Asked Pilgrim. The immortal in the painting, said the Dragon King, was named Huang Shaigong, and the young man kneeling in front of him was called Zhang Lang. Shaigong was sitting on the Yi Bridge when suddenly one of his shoes fell off and dropped under the bridge. He asked Zhang Lang to fetch it, and the young man quickly did so, putting it back on for him as he knelt there. This happened 3 times. Since Zhang Lang did not display the slightest sign of pride or impatience, he won the affection of Shaigong, who imparted to him that night a celestial manual and told him to support the house of Han. Afterwards, Zhang Lang made his plans sitting in a military tent to achieve victories 1,000 miles away. When the Han dynasty was established, he left his post and went into the mountains where he followed the Taoist Master Red Pine and became enlightened in the way of immortality. Great sage, if you do not accompany the Tang monk, if you are unwilling to exercise diligence or to accept instruction, you will remain a bogus immortal after all. Don't think that you'll ever acquire the fruits of truth. Wukong listened to these words and fell silent for some time. The Dragon King said, Great sage, you must make the decision yourself. It's unwise to allow momentary comfort to jeopardize your future. Not another word, said Wukong. Old Monkey will go back to accompany him, that's all. Delighted, the Dragon King said, If that's your wish, I dare not detain you. Instead, I ask the great sage to show his mercy at once and not permit his master to wait any longer. When Pilgrim heard this exhortation to leave, he bounded right out of the oceanic region, mounting the clouds. He left the Dragon King. On his way, he ran right into the Bodhisattva of South Sea. Son Wukong, said the Bodhisattva, why did you not listen to me and accompany the Tang monk? What are you doing here? Pilgrim was so taken aback that he saluted her on top of the clouds. I'm most grateful for the kind words of the Bodhisattva, he said. A monk from the Tang court did appear, lifted the seal, and saved my life. I became his disciple, but he blamed me for being too violent. I walked out on him for a little while, but I'm going back right now to accompany him. Go quickly, then, said the Bodhisattva, before you change your mind again. They finished speaking, and each went on his way. In a moment, our pilgrim saw the Tang monk sitting dejectedly at the side of the road. He approached him and said, Master, why are you not on the road? What are you doing here? Where have you been? Asked Tripitaka, looking up. Your absence has forced me to sit here and wait for you, not daring to walk or move. Pilgrim replied, I just went to the home of the old dragon at the Eastern Ocean to ask for some tea. Disciple, said Tripitaka, those who have left the family should not lie. It was less than an hour since you left me, and you claim to have had tea at the home of the Dragon King? To tell you the truth, said Pilgrim, laughing, I know how to cloud somersault, and a single somersault will carry me 108,000 miles. That's why I can go and return in no time at all. Tripitaka said, Because I spoke to you a little sharply, you were offended and left me in a rage. With your ability, you could go and ask for some tea, but a person like me has no other prospect but to sit here and endure hunger. Do you feel comfortable about that? Master, said Pilgrim, if you're hungry, I'll go beg some food for you. There's no need to beg, said Tripitaka, for I still have in my bag some dried goods given to me by the mother of Guardian Lu. Fetch me some water in that bowl. I'll eat some food and we can start out again. Pilgrim went to untie the bag and found some biscuits made of unrefined flour, which he took out and handed over to the master. He then saw light glowing from a silk shirt and a flower cap inlaid with gold. Did you bring this garment and cap from the land of the East? He asked. I wore these in my childhood, said Tripitaka nonchalantly. If you wear the hat, you'll know how to recite scriptures without having to learn them. If you put on the garment, you'll know how to perform rituals without having to practice them. Dear master, said Pilgrim, let me put them on. They may not fit you, said Tripitaka, but if they do, you may wear them. Pilgrim thereupon took off his old shirt made of white cloth and put on the silk shirt, which seemed to have been made especially for him. Then he put on the cap as well. When Tripitaka saw that he had put on the cap, he stopped eating the dried goods and began to recite the tight fillet spell silently. "Oh, my head," cried Pilgrim. "It hurts. It hurts." The master went through the recitation several times without ceasing, and the pain was so intense that Pilgrim was rolling on the ground, his hands gripping the flower cap inlaid with gold. Fearing that he might break the gold fillet, Tripitaka stopped reciting, and the pain ceased. Pilgrim touched his head with his hand and felt that it was tightly bound by a thin metal band. It could be neither pulled off nor ripped apart, for it had, as it were, taken root on his head. Taking the needle out of his ear, he rammed it inside the fillet. Fillet. I've been saying fillet this entire time. It's a fillet. And started prying madly. Afraid that he might break the fillet with his prying, Tripitaka started his recitation again, and Pilgrim's head began to hurt once more. It was so painful that he did cartwheels and somersaults. His face and even his ears turned red, his eyes bulged, and his body grew weak. When the master saw his appearance, he was moved to break off his recitation, and the pain stopped as before. "My head," said Pilgrim, "the master has put a spell on it." "I was just saying the tight fillet sutra," said Tripitaka. "Since when did I put a spell on you?" "Recite it some more and see what happens," said Pilgrim. Tripitaka accordingly began to recite, and the Pilgrim immediately started to hurt. "Stop, stop," he cried. "I hurt the moment you begin to recite. How do you explain that?" "Will you listen now to my instructions?" asked Tripitaka. "Yes, I will," replied Pilgrim. "And never be unruly again?" "I dare not," said Pilgrim. Although he said that with his mouth, Pilgrim's mind was still devising evil. One wave of the needle, and it had the thickness of a rice bowl. He aimed it at the Tang monk and was about to slam it down on him. The priest was so startled that he went through the recitation 2 or 3 more times. Falling to the ground, the monkey threw away the iron rod and could not even raise his hands. "Master," he said, "I've learned my lesson. Stop. Please stop." "How dare you be so reckless," said Tripitaka, "that you should want to strike me?" "I wouldn't dare strike you," said Pilgrim, "but let me ask you something. Who taught you this magic?" "It was an old woman," said Tripitaka, "who imparted it to me a few moments ago." Growing very angry, Pilgrim said, You needn't say anything more. The old woman had to be that Guanxian. Why did she want me to suffer like this? I'm going to South Sea to beat her up." "If she had taught me this magic," said Tripitaka, "she had to know it even before I did. If you go looking for her and she starts her recitation, won't you be dead?" Pilgrim saw the logic of this, and dared not remove himself. Indeed, he had no alternative but to kneel in contrition and plead with Tripitaka, saying, "Master, this is her method of controlling me, allowing me no alternative but to follow you to the west. I'll not go to bother her, but you must not regard this spell as a plaything for frequent recitation either. I'm willing to accompany you without ever entertaining the thought of leaving again." "If that's so," said Tripitaka, "help me onto the horse and let's get going." At that point, Pilgrim gave up all thoughts of disobedience or rebellion. Eagerly, he tugged at his silk shirt and went to gather the luggage together, and they headed again toward the west. We do not know what is to be told after their departure. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter. It's a bit hypocritical there, Tripitaka. Mind controlling your disciple. It's not exactly a pious trait. Selfless. Doesn't exactly follow any religion I would like to follow. What do you guys think? Did that seem hypocritical to you? Yeah, Dom, how dare you? Yeah, they do have a thing. It's not willing on Ryan's part. The hate part is, though. Calling it now. We're going to get Ryan so drunk in Vegas next year that he Ew. Kel, no. Gross. Yeah, I didn't need to know that either, Legatus. Was it pouring like an avalanche coming down the mountain? Am I forgetting something that happened at the beginning of the chapter? Hi. You want food? All right, I'll be right back. God, every time I come back to the desk, I keep wanting to put my headphones in like I'm streaming on a panel or whatever. I don't need to do that. I don't need to hear myself. I already hear myself. You're correct, Legatus. This did happen because I think it was the that I did not need to know, which gave me warning that I probably don't need to read that in the middle of me trying to read a chapter. Yeah, don't trust the monkey. I get that. But he came back of his own accord. Not that Tripitaka knew that, but just the thought of a mind control spell. I know that this comment came in way before this part of the book, but it's just, or the chapter. The end of this chapter, I don't like mind control spell. And, you know, you're not wrong. Yes, another name. I was super happy to have that. Couldn't you tell? Doubtful. The Hong Dong clan, really? I'm judging you harshly, Kel. Yeah, I'm used to them. It might be harder for you guys since you're just listening and not reading it, but it is kind of annoying. Yes, and Tripitaka is definitely being a little bitch. I agree with that. He could have tied the guys up, but that also does run the risk of one or more of them breaking free and then hunting them down. So the logic there does make sense on Wukong's part, but at the same time, he is a disciple, which he's not supposed to practice that much violence, I guess. It's very interesting. Like, Tripitaka is perfectly fine with him killing an animal, right? But when it's humans, to protect him, right? Like, he's super excited to have someone there to protect him, but then gets all pissy at him because he protected him. So, whatever. He will defeat him with words. It's not that he's whipping out his rod, it's just the freaking phrasing of some of the sentences when he does that. I can't. God, what was it? It's just how they. Don't run. Let old monkey try his hand on you with this rod. Awful. I guess I'm leaning more towards that degenerate comment from Kel earlier, huh? Whatever. Yeah, he probably will, or maybe Tripitaka will lift the spell. I don't know. Best trait is me first and best trait to have. Yeah. Right. If you have to force or brainwash people to believe or follow you, your ideology is not worth following. Exactly. Aw, thanks, Dom. You just opened another tab, didn't you? What? What are you talking about? Oh. And it doesn't matter. I gotcha. You were putting lyrics in the chat. Understood. That is not the word you're looking for, sir. But it is a word, hypercritical. I mean, if you're on your phone, I can understand maybe your autocorrect might have thought you were meaning hypercritical instead of hypocritical. I'll give you that. That's not how it's spelled, though. Don't listen to Cliff. So I think we're all in agreement that it kind of was not cool, the little mind control spell. Doesn't exactly sit within a pilgrim's repertoire, as it were. Dom, you could have just said, yeah, I'm on my phone, not imply the fact that we're going with that. But all right. All right, we ended on 15. It's going to be interesting with it when this ends to see if it's like a cliffhanger or not, because I think there's 4 volumes for this. I am glad that they're on the actual journey now, though. I'm finding it more interesting. I can understand why there was so much to get to it, though, because you need the background for the different characters. So I'll forgive them that. My camera is? Or your camera on your phone? Yes, you would lie. All of you are little scheming liars in my chat. Which means I'm among my people. Good Lord. All right, everybody. Well, I need to go cook up the last of the ground beef that I got yesterday. So I think that's a good point to leave it at. I'm not going to do another chapter, Dom. It ain't happening. Maybe next time. I'm not making any promises, though. Don't throw baseball at me. You're not getting any extra innings. Ain't happening. Nope. Nope. But everybody, thank you for hanging out. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you want. I post every now and again there. I don't really like the UI of Instagram, so I don't want to know how to work it. It's very weird and annoying, so I stick to Twitter. But yeah, everybody have a good night. And I'll see you guys next week.